But no, so just literally, as Holly said, we work closely with FORS and have been asked to sort of look at some AI preventions and how AI is coming into the market for things along the lines of preventing bridge strikes, driver fatigue, driver-facing cameras, and the dreaded subject of DVS, which officially is now over as such, but I know some of us are still dealing with. So yeah, we've got 15, 20 slides to run through. Shouldn't be too much, but I'll give you a little sort of snapshot as we go through and some of the various options. So 5 points to cover: how FleetSense and FORS work together and how that relates to the vehicle safety solutions, which is what we're talking about today. AI-driven solutions, so how AI can support best practice and help ensure compliance to FORS standards. So we all know there's new and updated FORS standards out, and they'll continue to develop and advance as the years go on. We work closely with those rules and regulations and guidance to make sure that we can help everyone be compliant. How AI can play a vital role in preventing the growing problem of bridge strikes. So got quite a few slides on that, but obviously new regulations coming in next year as well in relation to bridge strikes. So we need to have a little height of cabs and everything else. Intelligent technology, it's a valuable tool to support your fleet and help combat driver fatigue. Again, I know it's a tricky subject because a lot of drivers do not like cameras in the cab, and the only way to use AI is to have some kind of camera within the cab, but we'll go through the variations and how we can work and mitigate this. And then the rise of cameras and AI in commercial fleet operators, full stop. So sort of a little timeline to go through of when we first started getting our dash cams from Halfords and Argos all the way through to now where we can get them from large providers like ourselves, your Do-Right, your Brigade, everyone like that, but also Amazon now and online resellers. So it's making sure you get the right kit. So yeah, how do we work with FORS? I believe most of you will be aware there's affinity partnerships where FORS look out into the market and find suitable providers and suppliers to help their members. So they have picked FleetSense as the company of choice for cameras and vehicle safety. As part of that, you get access to myself or 3 or 4 of my colleagues in the office as like account managers, and in turn you get discounts on any hardware that you purchase for us. And then we deal with, we're whole of market as such, so we deal with all different suppliers and providers. But on the AI side of things, we have partnered ourselves with Do-Right. So again, a well-known industry company that everyone should know within the industry. And they are on the call as well today. We've got a couple of experts in the background, so anything you need to ask in the Q&As, however techie it may be, or if you're thinking, Luke may not know that, but I'll ask anyway, test us, ask the questions, we should have the answers between us. But yeah, so if I just now hand over briefly to Geraint just to go through how we work together and some sort of further ideas, if you don't mind.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. I'm Geraint Davis, FORS Director. Been in the job for 2 years now. And I like to think I bring very much an operator's perspective to things, see things very much through an operator's lens. For 22 years before doing this role, I worked at a company called John Raymond Transport, finished off as COO. And along life's way, I was the TM, I was on the O licenses. I've got a class 1 myself, so I can drive a truck. And as you can imagine, in 22 years of running HGVs, all 44-ton Arctics, 3-axle units, 3-axle trailers, all pulling tall trailers, 15-foot, 15-1, all tall curtain-sided trailers. Over the course of time, inevitably human factors come in and things happen. Yes, we did have a couple of bridge strikes, and we want to prevent those, and we look at the mitigating factors, and 100% of the time those bridge strikes were caused by human factors. So we look at what we can do to reduce that, and what we said today, now we're going to mitigate that as well, and looking at AI as well in terms of driver behavior. As Luke's already alluded to, drivers are not necessarily that keen on having cameras facing them whilst they're driving. But that said, I remember a particular event. We had a night driver, that left us, for, I think it was 25p an hour more or something daft like that, went to another operator, and a few weeks later was involved in a fatal collision. The investigation into that collision established that the driver was had a laptop on the dashboard of that particular vehicle, and had that operator had this particular kind of technology, that would have been detected immediately, that in terms of driver behavior, distracted driving. So in many respects, selfishly, we'd almost dodged a bullet there. We did, by the driver leaving, but that operator then had it mandated by their insurers that they had to have cameras facing the driver in the cab. And there was only one last week, actually, doing the rounds on social media. A driver eating a sandwich whilst driving and almost choked to death. So that was picked up by the in-cab camera as well. So in terms of benefits to operators, as has already been said, Fleet Force operators can receive 25% discount. I've used the Do Right kit myself on my own vehicles, so it's good kit, it's good quality, and with partnering with FleetSense as well, it's all installed correctly. And then supporting compliance with the Force standard, so the various aspects of a vehicle safety equipment in terms of V6. It suggested that you have this equipment, and then it becomes mandatory for S6, of course, and then it helps with sustainable operations in G3 as well. Reduced insurance costs. Now, this is a very interesting one. Whilst you might not necessarily have an immediate reduction with your insurers, some will give you a negotiated reduction for having the kit fitted, for being a Force operator, but by having the drivers on that journey and cultural change, I myself saved close on £100,000 by using the Force training, the equipment, and things like that. So as that cultural change can reduce in an reduced insurance claims, because your claims experience and loss ratio is that much better, and it also helps with sustainability in terms of drivers improving their driving style, smoother driving style, and then you got the correlating reduction in CO2. So back to you, Luke.
No worries. Thank you very much. So yeah, if I move on to bridge strikes, I'd say there's about 20 different images we could have found to put on here, but let's try and do some slightly more normal ones. How can AI help prevent bridge strikes? So I don't think we're ever going to stop bridge strikes, is the main thing here. This is a prevention tool. You can now, or going forward, have cameras fitted to the front of the cab, which will not only read road signs like you have in a lot of your road going vehicles at the moment that will tell you it's 30 mile an hour or your national speed limit. You're now able to get cameras that will read the road signs telling you that you've got a bridge upcoming. It will read the height of the bridge and it will relay that back to the cab. So yes, a driver should be looking at that and should be knowing the height of their cab and the road signs as they're coming, but they obviously don't always look at them. So the tool is that the vehicle will effectively know you've got a bridge upcoming. If you're at a junction, it will know if you're going to turn. It won't know if you're going to turn left or right, but because you have the GPS and the navigation effectively built within the kit, whether you're turning left or right, it will still be warning you there is a bridge upcoming. You might turn left and the bridge is on your right and it's not there, but the driver is aware that there is a bridge upcoming. We've then obviously got how many actually happen at the moment. So according to the stats that we've found, you've got about 5 bridges are being hit every single day. So that's from a cross section of vehicles, obviously, but the majority are HGVs, agricultural vehicles, and then about 1 bus a week is also involved in hitting bridges. They're the ones we see in the news, usually with a bus with its roof taken off. But what you don't see is the HGV, the tractor unit, the little crane or whatever it is that's just knocking into the bridges. So anything like that happens, obviously, bridge has to be closed, roads had to be closed, surveys need to be undertaken. It just costs money, and that money ultimately gets filtered back down to us as the fleet operator. National Railways have just brought out a new campaign, Wise Up, Size Up, trying to highlight this and trying to put it on billboards, especially around London, to make sure people are aware and know that it happens and the damage it has. A few stats at the bottom there as well, so people just don't consider it. Over reliance on sat navs, have you got the right sat nav in a truck? How many of our drivers still bring their own sat nav to work and stick it on the dashboard of the truck? But that sat nav is an old TomTom device that they bought 10 years ago. It's just checking these kind of things. If we're letting our drivers loose with kit that we haven't provided them with, do we know it's compliant? Do we know it's up to date? So yeah, I briefly mentioned there the cost comes back onto us, but what is the cost of bridge strikes? So in terms of rail delays is the main one. So I don't know if any of you commute to work, but if you've got anyone that's doing your sort of London, Manchester, Birmingham, Cambridge commute every day on the train, how many times does their train get delayed? How many times is it missed and they're chucked on a bus or whatever it may be? They're the infuriations of general public. But those costs are always filtered back down that sort of pipeline. So yes, it costs the rail industry about £20 million a year. It will cost National Highways a similar figure, but they claim that money back. If it's that someone's at fault, the insurance company has to pick up on that. The insurance company, what do? They pass it back on to the end user. So it's us. And if you don't want to have to pick up the tab for someone else's silly mistakes, effectively what insurance companies and fleet policies and brokers have been saying is if you've got the kit, we're either looking at bursaries coming back to pay for the kit, or you can get reductions once you've proven that you're a safe fleet to run, you've got it there, the drivers are actually engaging with the kit that's installed. And then what does the actual kit look like? I know some of you may have jumped ahead, but here we go. So effectively we have a forward-facing dash cam. So the rectangle shaped camera there would be in the middle of the windscreen. So windscreen facing outwards. So it's not going to get hit or knocked on the exterior of the vehicle. And then what looks like a sort of Apple Watch logo will be mounted near the driver within the cab. And that will have a color warning system. So there'll be nothing on there at all if there's no issues. If you've got a bridge up coming, it will give you a warning sign. If you're definitely not going to fit under the bridge, it will be red. But the main thing, or part of the features that I like on this Durite kit, is that it has the audible alert, but you can change the pitch of the audible alert. Without anyone engaging with me at the moment, I don't know the groans that are going on, but having tech in the cab and the drivers having to get used to what the tech is doing, the beeps, the buzzes, the sounds, looking at my left windscreen video, my infotainment system, we're putting a lot on the drivers. And sometimes putting too much on them leads them just to ignore the noises. So
cognitive overload,
yeah. So this has to have some kind of sound, but we can change the pitch of it. So it may sound a minor thing, but hopefully it's something that helps. So it's a noise they haven't heard before. They shouldn't hear it very often, because if they're using the sat navs and they're reading the signs, they won't have any issues with low bridges. But if they hear it, they need to know to act straight away. So that is the kit effectively. So just a quick update with Geraint before I hand over to look at the driver facing cameras as well.
Bridge strikes is a massive issue, huge, and it's inexcusable. And like I said, most of the time human factors prevail, and it all starts with training, making sure that the drivers are adequately trained from the get-go. And sometimes even that doesn't prevent it. So this is very much the sort of the backstop. I remember a particular incident. We had a driver. We had him in the classroom, and it was through a particular training scheme. And I was really an advocate of this training scheme because it went really back to basics. Had the drivers there with bridge atlases, and they spent a whole day on route planning alone. And I thought, this is tremendous. This is fantastic. And it was actual route planning and how not to be overly reliant on sat navs, as has already been said. And it was really good. And the driver, this particular driver, had gone out with a driver trainer for 2 weeks. And then 7 o'clock on a Friday evening, has to be 7 o'clock on the Friday evening, as the rules.
Knew what you were going to say.
Yeah. And I have a phone call. Drivers at a bridge can't find a particular destination in Crewe, hit a railway bridge. 15-foot trailer, 14-foot 3 bridge. The rest is history. But I was able to demonstrate to the traffic commissioner, had to write to the traffic commissioner to say what had happened, because that's what you have to do. And yes, you do get called to a preliminary PI, but it didn't go to a public inquiry because I had all the training and things in place, and we could demonstrate that the driver had gone past 6 signs warning of the low bridge. So again, coming back to human factors, but in that particular instance, the driver was trained, but still went and did this. I was perplexed how this could happen, but there was no action was taken against the operator, but the driver did have I think it was a 6 months holiday imposed by the TC. So that just goes to show that it can go wrong
That's
quite.
protecting the fleet operator effectively by
Yeah,
training, which obviously we should all be doing anyway, but then going that one step further, it's just CYA.
yeah. And it's the cost, as you've already said. Trailer, the rail infrastructure. Obviously, we want to prevent serious injury and death. You've got a train, could be traveling 125 miles an hour over that particular bridge. And yeah, training is the backstop, and then this is the the life jacket, then, if you will. And you don't want it to happen. I remember another particular incident. The driver, all I can think of is he put avoid motorways into his sat nav, and he came down from Corby with Devonshire custard. Never knew that came from Corby, but there you go. Or Kettering, actually. And a load of Lloyd Grossman sauce. Came down the A48 by Broadoak and hit a bridge, and it was all over the road. Stat recovery, £4,500. Trailer totaled, damage to the tractor unit as well. Obviously, it was a major supermarket, was the customer. Obviously, they're not very happy. And there's one now, if you look at John Raymond Transport Bridge Strike Swindon 2014. It must have been a slow news day. Daily Mail, driver gets himself into sweaty situation. And it was carrying a full load of Lynx cans. So not particularly good for the Lynx deodorant brand, not very good for our brand, because it was and it was actually on the BBC News as well. And it's actually on YouTube. It's still there, So once you get in a vehicle in this situation, there's people there all walking around with cameras. They're all there like this, all with their camera
and everything
phones.
else now as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's there forevermore. So there's multiple factors there. So my advice to the operators would be train your drivers. There's loads of good training courses out there. I know there's Road Skills. You've got Driving for Better Business. You've got I know Network Rail. They did a CPC course in collaboration with National Highways. Own in-house training, the FORS training, the FORS Bridge Smart training, and obviously make sure that the in-cab old school height indicator is at the correct height set, and that is now
Clearly
a
displayed
PG9 anyway.
Yeah.
And make sure that you've got suitable kit like this, which is fantastic, which can prevent bridge strikes. And it's great as well that you've called out the cognitive overload there with the drivers as well, Luke, because you've got dingers, dongers, everything going off, DBS kit and whatnot. So yeah, so I'm just conscious I've done enough talking. So back to you, Luke.
No, you're fine.
I could talk all day about bridge strikes.
I don't think any of us know you could talk all day, Geraint. It's fine. No, I'm going to pass over to my colleague just to talk about driver fatigue or driver-facing cameras as such. Again, there's fancy AI kit to go through, so I'll let him do a few slides and have a conversation about that. And again, at the end of the driver-facing stuff, we'll pick up on another sort of discussion or questions at the end. So I think Holly just put a message up to any questions you're gathering at the moment, pop them in the chat, and we'll get them all covered off shortly. But yeah, I'll hand over to my colleague George.
Hi there, good afternoon everybody, how are we doing? Thank you very much for that, Luke. Yeah, so we've really touched quite a lot on there, bridge strike prevention. Now we're going to look at some other AI sort of integration into camera systems and ways to prevent certain parts. So here we are, we're going to sort of highlight on driver distractions and any sort of fatigue levels, how to prevent them, and how we can use the AI integration to help. Starting off, going to look at a timeline of sort of the development through the years from about 2010 to present, how sort of camera systems have developed. We'll have a look at some of the costs of driver fatigue, and then we'll look at how AI can actually help prevent it. We'll look at the benefits and then some examples of some of the systems that Durite provide. So here we are. So this is a sort of a rough timeline I set up. We're looking at starting at about 2010, we saw sort of the introduction to basic dash cams into vehicles, HEVs, cars, any sort of vehicle on the road. Moving forward, as technology obviously progresses pretty fast, we're looking at 2010 to 2015 multi-camera systems. So that's sort of your 360 vision on the larger vehicles, which is a standard practice these days, but back then it was sort of becoming more and more relevant. Looking then forward into sort of 2016, 2019, we see the introduction of FORS, sort of compliance schemes. DVS sort of takes sort of traction, starts picking up to see how we can sort of make these cameras more efficient and increase safety levels. Then we're sort of looking into 2020, 2023. We start to see more integration of AI coming in through monitoring systems, looking at how to detect fatigue and also drive behaviors. And now obviously in the sort of present time, looking into the future, we're actually seeing AI essentially learn human behaviors and to help better predict any sort of trends through behaviors and forecast any issues. So looking at the costs of driver fatigue, now 20% of all road accidents involved some sort of distraction or fatigue. You know, 40% of those were sleep related. Obviously we're talking about HGV drivers here, doing longer hours, and we know TACO is obviously a very strict rule when it comes to sort of the hours you're allowed to do and the breaks you have to do as well. But 25% up to 25% of these were actually fatal. So we're talking quite serious incidences that arise through fatigue of the driver. Sometimes just doing too long hours, whether that can be distractions through sort of other parts, but we'll get onto that in a second. So here we actually are looking at the ways we can prevent it. So the Durite DMS camera here uses AI integration. It can be used independently or linked into a DVR, so it can be recorded as well. Couple of the things that actually detects, we've got some photos down here of drivers obviously on their phones, being distracted, smoking, sort of bits like that. Again, looking at what they shouldn't be doing, and as we've mentioned before, it's not something that drivers like being looked on in the cab, and we totally understand that. But again, if you're doing things like this and it leads to fatal collisions, it's having the evidence and sort of looking at it like that, a way to improve behaviours through the drivers itself. Okay, so now we're just looking at some of the benefits of having camera systems with AI. Obviously, we've got the reduction in number of collisions. Little stat there of fleets using the actual cameras itself actually found a 40% decrease. Improved driver behaviour, as I just mentioned, with all the distractions, people using their phones while driving. We all know as a normal driver on the road, you can pick up 6 points if you're on your phone, police stop you. So it's obviously really up there with trying to prevent that. It's a big issue. And mentioned before, someone having their laptop on the dash when we were looking at that last example. Cost savings as well. So again, Luke obviously touched a lot on the sort of costs around bridge strikes. So we're looking at sort of the fleet operators save ranges through the £12,500 to sort of £60,000 when having these cameras in place. Now again, sort of just touching on the 4 silver systems we've got and DVS stuff. So we all obviously know what DVS is. It's been and gone, but there is still quite a lot of the market still sort of deciding how much of their fleet they want to complete. And, you know, obviously TfL pushing these rules in place. Could we see it go sort of more nationwide into larger cities? Is the next 10 years, are all vehicles going to come with this on already, or are they still going to have kits added on at a later date? It's all questions, but again, we're just going to see how it sort of rolls through the years up and coming. But again, having that level of safety on the vehicle is very important, and using AI integration to help prevent any sort of issues for future uses. Now again, just looking over, this is sort of just the DVS systems itself, how they work. You've got your moving off camera system on the bottom right, and then the blind side as well, just showing you sort of the levels which it can detect and the ranges it can detect as well.